Something major is finally happening with Last Friday, and longtime fans are beginning to realize this sequel is far more complicated than anyone expected. After more than 2 decades of delays, arguments, rewrites, and studio drama, the next chapter in the legendary Friday franchise is officially moving forward. But behind the celebration is a story filled with power struggles, painful losses, and one huge unanswered question. Can this movie truly recapture what made the original so special? And honestly, after 23 years of waiting, can any sequel possibly live up to the expectations? That's exactly what Hollywood is trying to figure out right now. In April 2025, executives at Warner Bros. Discovery and New Line Cinema officially confirmed that Last Friday is happening. Ice Cube has signed on to write, star in, and reportedly direct the film himself. For fans who spent years hearing rumors that went nowhere, this was the moment everything suddenly became real. But why did it take so long? To understand the chaos surrounding Last Friday, you have to go all the way back to 1995. The original Friday was never supposed to become a cultural landmark. It had a small budget, a simple setup, and very little studio confidence behind it. The movie followed 2 friends, Craig and Smokey, trying to survive one incredibly strange day in south-central Los Angeles. That was it. No giant action scenes. No expensive special effects. No complicated plot twists. And somehow, it worked perfectly. Audiences connected to the humor because it felt real. The neighborhood felt alive. The conversations felt natural. The characters felt like people viewers actually knew. Every scene carried energy, personality, and unpredictability. One moment the film was hilarious, the next moment tense, and then suddenly emotional. How often does a low-budget comedy create characters that people are still quoting 30 years later? The film launched careers almost overnight. Ice Cube proved he could become a major movie star outside of music. Chris Tucker became one of the most unforgettable comedic performers of the decade. Supporting actors like John Witherspoon and Tommy Lister Jr. turned side characters into legends. Even people who had never seen the full movie somehow knew the lines. That level of cultural impact is incredibly rare in Hollywood. Most comedies disappear after a few years. Friday somehow kept growing. The success led to sequels. First came Next Friday, followed by Friday After Next. Both films performed well financially and helped keep the franchise alive. But after that, the momentum suddenly stopped. Years passed. Then more years. Fans kept asking the same question over and over again. Where is the next Friday movie? At first, people assumed the delays were normal Hollywood problems. Scheduling conflicts. Budget issues. Creative disagreements. But the deeper story was far more frustrating. Behind closed doors, Ice Cube reportedly spent years fighting to revive the franchise. Scripts were written, revised, and rewritten again. Meetings happened constantly. Different versions of the story circulated through studio offices. Some reports claimed Cube submitted screenplay ideas as early as 2012 alongside longtime collaborator DJ Pooh. But every time progress seemed close, something collapsed. Studio leadership kept changing. Executives came and went. New decision-makers reportedly wanted different creative directions. Some wanted a safer version of the franchise. Others worried about whether the audience still existed. There were concerns about budgets, casting, and marketing. Imagine spending years trying to continue a story that audiences already wanted, only to keep hearing, maybe later. At some point, frustration turned into exhaustion. Then the franchise suffered something far worse than production delays. In 2019, John Witherspoon passed away. For many fans, that loss changed everything emotionally. His character, Willie Jones, wasn't just comic relief. He was the heart of the Friday universe. Every scene he appeared in instantly became memorable because of his delivery, expressions, and timing. He represented the kind of neighborhood father figure audiences loved watching. Could Last Friday really exist without him? That question suddenly became unavoidable. Then more tragedy followed. Tommy Lister Jr., the actor who played the terrifying yet hilarious Debo, passed away in 2020. Not long after, Anthony Johnson, known to fans as Easel, also died. One by one, important pieces of the franchise disappeared. Suddenly, The movie wasn't simply struggling with production problems anymore. It was carrying grief, nostalgia, and emotional weight. Fans no longer viewed Last Friday as just another comedy sequel. It started feeling like the closing chapter of an era. And maybe that's part of what makes the pressure so intense now. Because what exactly are audiences expecting from this movie? Do they want pure comedy like the original? A nostalgic reunion? A tribute to the actors who passed away? Or are they hoping for something deeper? A film that acknowledges how much time has passed and how much life has changed since the 1990s. That balancing act may be the hardest challenge Ice Cube has ever faced creatively. Ironically, the breakthrough finally came because of an old connection inside Hollywood. In 2022, producers Mike DeLuca and Pamela Abdy took over leadership roles at Warner Bros. DeLuca wasn't just another executive reading numbers on a spreadsheet. He had direct history with Ice Cube dating back to the original Friday era at New Line Cinema during the 1990s. That mattered. Hollywood often runs on relationships, trust, and timing. DeLuca reportedly understood the cultural value of the franchise in a way newer executives never fully did. He knew Friday was more than an old comedy series. It was part of pop culture history. That connection reopened doors that had stayed shut for years. By 2024, Ice Cube publicly admitted that the situation had finally improved behind the scenes. For the first time in years, conversations were becoming productive. Deals were moving forward. There was actual momentum. And then something unexpected happened. The internet reminded Hollywood just how powerful the franchise still was. Streaming numbers for Friday reportedly remained shockingly strong decades after release. Clips continued spreading across social media platforms. Memes introduced younger viewers to scenes from a movie released long before they were born. Entire generations discovered the film through family recommendations. Think about that carefully. How many comedies from 1995 still dominate online conversations today? That kind of longevity is almost impossible to manufacture. Studios spend millions trying to create timeless movies, yet most disappear within months. Friday survived through word of mouth, quotable scenes, and characters people genuinely loved. Hollywood noticed the numbers. Executives noticed the engagement. And suddenly, the sequel no longer looked risky. By early 2025, Mike Epps publicly revealed that the deal was finally complete. Soon afterward, official studio confirmation followed. After 23 years of uncertainty, Last Friday was finally real. But almost immediately, another massive question took over the internet. Will Chris Tucker return as Smokey? For many fans, Smokey wasn't just another supporting character. He was the soul of the original film. His chemistry with Ice Cube created magic that audiences never forgot. Every nervous reaction, every wild excuse, every exaggerated story somehow worked perfectly. Without Smokey, some fans believe the franchise never fully felt the same again. Yet Tucker never appeared in the sequels. Over the years, multiple explanations surfaced. Some insiders claimed the issue involved money after Tucker became a massive Hollywood star through franchises like Rush Hour. Others pointed toward Tucker's personal transformation later in life. Reports suggested he became more selective about roles and uncomfortable with certain types of comedy content. But here's what keeps fueling speculation. Tucker never completely closed the door. In recent interviews over the years, he occasionally spoke positively about Friday and acknowledged the love fans still have for Smokey. Ice Cube himself has repeatedly expressed interest in bringing Tucker back if the circumstances feel right. So now fans are wondering, could the reunion finally happen after all these years? Imagine the reaction if Smokey suddenly appeared in the trailer. The internet would explode overnight. At the same time, expectations could become dangerously high. Nostalgia is powerful, but it can also create impossible standards. Fans aren't just hoping for another comedy. They're hoping to relive a feeling connected to an entirely different era of life. That's incredibly difficult to recreate. The world itself has changed dramatically since Friday first premiered. Comedy has changed. Hollywood has changed. Audiences have changed. Even the neighborhoods and social dynamics that inspired the original films look different now. Can Last Friday capture the same authenticity while still feeling modern? That may determine whether the sequel succeeds or disappoints. And there's another layer of pressure that many people are overlooking. Ice Cube isn't simply revisiting an old franchise. He's protecting a legacy. The Friday series helped define a generation of comedy. It represented a style of storytelling Hollywood rarely prioritizes anymore, character-driven humor grounded in everyday life. The original films didn't rely on giant spectacle. They relied on personality, timing, and human interaction. That's much harder to fake than expensive action scenes. If Last Friday gets the tone wrong, audiences will notice immediately. But if it somehow manages to balance nostalgia, humor, emotion, and respect for the actors who are gone, the film could become something far bigger than a typical sequel. It could become a farewell to an entire cultural era. And maybe that's why fans are so emotionally invested now. This isn't just about entertainment anymore. For many viewers, Friday represents memories of family movie nights, childhood laughter, neighborhood friendships, and a completely different moment in pop culture history. People don't just remember the movie. They remember where they were when they first watched it. Now the biggest question remains unanswered. After 23 years of waiting, endless production delays, heartbreaking cast losses, studio politics, and impossible expectations, can Last Friday actually deliver the ending fans have imagined for decades? Or has the wait itself become so legendary that no movie could ever truly live up to it? Hollywood is finally about to find out. For years, rumors surrounding the sequel have drifted through Hollywood like unfinished conversations on a front porch. One month the movie seemed dead. The next month someone connected to the franchise would hint that progress was finally happening. Fans learned not to celebrate too early. They had already experienced disappointment too many times before. Yet somehow, hope never disappeared. Part of that hope comes from the emotional attachment audiences still have to these characters. In past interviews, Chris Tucker described filming the original Friday as one of the best experiences of his entire career. More recently, he teased the possibility of returning, but only if the project felt right. That single phrase immediately reignited excitement across social media. What exactly does "felt right" mean? Does it mean the script finally captures the spirit of the original? Does it mean Tucker wants assurance the movie will honor the franchise instead of exploiting it? Or could it simply mean he understands how risky returning really is after so many years away from the character that made him famous? Because Smokey is not just another comedy role. Smokey became part of pop culture history. Even today, decades later, fans still quote his lines online, recreate scenes on TikTok, and debate whether he remains one of the funniest comedy characters ever created. Some movie characters fade with time. Smokey somehow became even more iconic as the years passed. That is exactly why the pressure surrounding Tucker's possible return feels enormous. Mike Epps openly urged Tucker to come back during a radio interview, reminding audiences that many people still instantly associate him with Smokey no matter how many other projects he has done. And honestly, isn't that true? Some actors spend entire careers searching for one unforgettable role. Tucker found one early, and audiences never let it go. Reports from Hollywood suggest Ice Cube may have already written scenes specifically designed for Tucker if he agrees to return. If that is true, then one phone call could completely change the emotional weight of the movie. Because without Smokey, can Last Friday truly feel complete? That question continues to divide fans everywhere. Some believe the franchise evolved successfully without Tucker after Next Friday. Others argue the chemistry between Craig and Smokey was the heart of the original film and can never fully be replaced. The debate itself shows just how deeply audiences still care after all these years. But nostalgia alone does not guarantee success. In fact, nostalgia can sometimes become dangerous. Modern audiences are far harder to impress than they were in the 1990s. Today, every trailer is dissected within minutes. Every casting announcement sparks arguments online. One weak scene can instantly become a viral meme for the wrong reasons. Social media has changed entertainment forever, and legacy sequels now face brutal levels of scrutiny before they even release. That pressure becomes even heavier when you remember what the Friday franchise actually represents historically. The original Friday was not simply another successful comedy. In many ways, it changed Hollywood's understanding of black-led films entirely. Made on a relatively small budget, the movie proved that authentic storytelling, relatable communities, and culturally specific humor could connect with mainstream audiences worldwide without relying on expensive studio formulas. At the time, few executives expected the movie to become such a phenomenon. But audiences saw something genuine in it. The neighborhood felt real. The conversations felt real. The struggles, jokes, frustrations, and friendships felt familiar to millions of viewers who rarely saw their everyday experiences reflected honestly on screen. That authenticity became the franchise's greatest strength. Years later, the impact of the film received official recognition when the Friday franchise earned historic respect from the Library of Congress after the original film was selected for the National Film Registry in 2023. Think about how remarkable that truly is. A low-budget comedy about one chaotic day in the neighborhood became recognized as culturally significant American cinema. Very few people involved in the original production could have predicted that outcome. Now Last Friday carries the responsibility of protecting that legacy while also trying to entertain a completely different generation of viewers. That may be the hardest challenge of all. According to interviews, Ice Cube reportedly understands that pressure deeply. Instead of pretending time never passed, the sequel is expected to directly acknowledge the painful losses of several beloved cast members who are no longer alive. That creative decision could completely change the emotional tone of the film. Previous Friday movies focused mostly on humor, chaos, and neighborhood problems. But Last Friday may introduce something heavier beneath the comedy: grief, aging, regret, and the reality that life changed for everyone. Can a Friday movie still feel hilarious while quietly carrying sadness underneath? Maybe that emotional complexity is exactly what makes the sequel so fascinating. The audience has changed too. The teenagers who once quoted Smokey in school hallways are now adults with careers, families, and responsibilities. Many longtime fans no longer watch the franchise simply for jokes. They watch because the movies remind them of a different period in their own lives. For some viewers, Friday represents childhood summers. For others, it represents old friendships that faded with time. Some remember watching the movies with relatives who are no longer alive themselves. Others connect the films to memories of neighborhoods they moved away from years ago. That emotional nostalgia runs far deeper than comedy. And perhaps Ice Cube understands this better than anyone. Reports suggest Last Friday will attempt to blend emotional maturity with the same everyday humor that originally made audiences fall in love with the franchise. Instead of pretending everyone stayed young forever, the film may explore how these characters changed with age. What happened to Craig after all these years? Did he finally escape the struggles of the neighborhood, or did life pull him back into familiar routines? Has Smokey matured, or is he still the same unpredictable personality audiences remember? What does friendship even look like after decades apart? Those questions create genuine curiosity beyond simple nostalgia. At the same time, the movie also plans to introduce younger comedic talent into the franchise. Mike Epps confirmed that newer personalities like DC Young Fly are expected to join returning veterans. That balancing act could either save the film or completely divide audiences. Can old-school Friday humor successfully merge with a younger generation raised on viral internet comedy, live stream culture, and social media trends? Or will the movie feel trapped between two completely different eras of entertainment? Hollywood struggles with this problem constantly. Some legacy sequels manage to bridge generations beautifully by respecting the past while introducing something fresh. Others feel like awkward reunions desperately trying to recreate magic that no longer exists. That fear absolutely exists around Last Friday. After all, audiences have already seen beloved franchises return after decades away only to disappoint fans almost immediately. Sometimes the humor feels outdated. Sometimes the emotional connection disappears. Sometimes studios focus so heavily on nostalgia that they forget to tell an engaging story. But there is one major difference here. Ice Cube reportedly wants creative control himself. Unlike earlier installments where directing responsibilities shifted between different filmmakers, Last Friday may become the first movie shaped almost entirely through Cube's personal vision from beginning to end. That matters because nobody understands the emotional DNA of this franchise better than the man who helped create it. And authenticity matters now more than ever. Modern audiences can immediately sense when a sequel exists only to recycle catchphrases and collect easy money from older fans. People want more than references. They want emotional payoff. They want growth. They want to revisit these characters and genuinely feel the passage of time. That may explain why excitement around the sequel continues growing despite all the delays. Because deep down, Friday was never really about complicated storylines. It was about familiarity. Everyone remembers some version of their own Friday. Long afternoons with nowhere important to go. Friends sitting outside talking for hours. Family members who constantly created drama but were impossible not to love. Neighborhood personalities everyone recognized instantly. The movie captured ordinary life in a way that somehow felt timeless. That simplicity became powerful. Even viewers who never lived in neighborhoods like the one shown in the film still connected emotionally to the atmosphere. The conversations felt human. The friendships felt believable. The humor came from recognizable situations instead of exaggerated Hollywood spectacle. That honesty is incredibly difficult to recreate today, especially in an entertainment industry now dominated by giant superhero franchises, expensive visual effects, and streaming algorithms chasing viral attention spans. Can a slower, character-driven comedy still succeed in modern Hollywood? Or has the industry changed too much for something like Friday to feel special again? Those questions make Last Friday more interesting than a normal sequel. In many ways, the movie feels like a test for Hollywood itself. Can studios still create authentic comedies centered around human relationships instead of spectacle? Can older franchises return successfully without betraying what audiences originally loved? Can filmmakers honor nostalgia while still telling stories that feel emotionally honest? Right now, nobody truly knows the answer. But one thing is absolutely certain. People are paying attention again. Every rumor spreads instantly online. Every cast update sparks debate. Every interview generates headlines. That level of anticipation alone proves the cultural impact of this franchise never disappeared. And perhaps that is the most surprising part of all. After 23 years of delays, cancellations, rights disputes, rewrites, and heartbreaking losses, audiences still care enough to argue passionately about a movie that has not even been released yet. That kind of loyalty is rare. If Ice Cube manages to recapture the heart, humor, honesty, and emotional realism that made the original unforgettable, then Last Friday could become far more than another nostalgic sequel. It could become one of Hollywood's rare comeback stories that actually justifies the wait. But if the film fails, the disappointment may feel enormous precisely because expectations became so emotional over time. That is the gamble facing everyone involved. So now the final question returns once again. Should Chris Tucker finally return as Smokey after all these years? And more importantly, can Last Friday truly live up to the legacy of one of the most beloved comedy franchises in American film history?